did that get you? I hope it did because it's Halloween! And this video was totally supposed to be released on Halloween. Actually, when was my last video? 4 months ago? Yeah, I'm really sorry for all of you who have been waiting for this video. College completely consumed my time for the last 2 months, and I've been fighting tooth and nail to get this video done. So I hope this video will be worth the wait for you guys. Anyway, hello, I'm the HumpBackDiver, the land-dwelling diver, and today I bring you the 4th video in my DBD portrait series. And since this is the 4th video in my series, there are of course 3 other videos before this one, which I recommend you please go and watch because you never know, maybe your favorite killer was done there. But if you wish to continue anyways, in this series I try to represent the killer's personalities or abilities in portrait form, and I've given myself 3 rules for making these. Rule number 1, make these in portrait format and not landscape. Rule number 2, try to represent the abilities or personalities of the killers. And 3, specifically for the licensed killers, only use their abilities shown in Dead by Daylight and not their original media. Okay, now that you understand this series, let me just say a couple things before I start the video. Firstly, my last video didn't do too well, so I'll just say it here. But I do have a Google Drive where you can download and use these portraits. You may use them in-game or for your own projects. All I ask is that you credit me. The link is in the description. In fact, the killers done in this video are in there right now. But please watch this before heading there, as it ensures that I can keep making these portraits. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into the video, shall we? Me. I wanted this. Yeah, if anyone watched the ending of my last video, you would know that I said that Springtrap was going to be a definite for this episode, because simply put, I'm a huge FNAF fan. I've been a huge fan of the series since I was 9, and even now that I'm 20 and about to be 21, I still love this franchise dearly. And let me tell you, when I saw the teaser for this collab, I lost my goddamn mind. I have never been this excited for a DLC in my entire life, and this easily tops Steve and Smash for me by tenfold. So needless to say, this was my dream chapter for this game, and it being FNAF's first big collab was even better. I adore everything in this chapter. From the cool banners and icons, to the map having really cool Easter eggs, and of course the main attraction himself, Springtrap. Seriously, they did my boy absolute justice. His model is everything I've ever wanted from this collab. He of course has the decaying Spring Bonnie suit, and underneath is his decomposing corpse. Now, I don't know if I can show his corpse here on YouTube, so just to be safe I'm gonna have to blur it. But it's there and it's extremely haunting. I love it. And also the fact that they got his original voice actor, PJ Haywood, to reprise his role. Like, Behavior, thank you so much for that. He seriously got some crazy new lines for this collab.
I'm the fun one! No pizza for you! Here's a Fazbear special! The darkest pit of hell is open for business! I always come back!
Anyway, enough fanboying, let's get to his abilities, shall we? Springtrap has two unique aspects to his power. He wields an axe as his alt fire, which after a short windup you can lob at survivors, and if it manages to hit a survivor, they'll have an axe embedded in them. But if Springtrap manages to get in range of the survivor with an axe embedded, he'll grab them and give them a nasty jump scare. The other aspect of Springtrap's power is the doors that spawn in random locations around the trial. Both survivors and Springtrap himself can use these doors to fast travel around the map. But for Springtrap's portrait here, I wanted to focus on his axe jump scare ability, since if FNAF is known for anything, it's the jump scares. But don't worry, I do have something planned for his door ability later in the video. Alright, I know it's only the beginning of the portrait here, but I do have to say that I am kinda terrible at drawing the FNAF characters. I know, I'm a huge fan of the franchise, but man, I don't know what makes them really hard to draw for me. I think it's the weird proportions and the different types of bits they have in their limbs. But man, I am not very good at drawing any of the FNAF characters. And you'll see like how I had to draw a completely second sketch for Springtrap here because the first one was really bad. And even after I got the sketch down, I still had massive problems with the bottom jaw. The bottom jaw really stumped me, like I was actually stuck on the bottom jaw for like 2 days actually. Anyway, moving away from Springtrap, as you can see, I actually added a survivor for this portrait because I really wanted to get that specific scene of the jump scare ability. It's probably the most detailed a survivor will ever be for one of these portraits actually, even though it's kind of blurry. I was also contemplating whether making this portrait in first person or this third person perspective, or rather the angle that the jump scare ability is in, but I decided to go with the third person one because I really wanted to show that Springtrap was jump scaring the survivor, which the first person perspective I don't think I could have done very well, to be honest. One thing I didn't really like about drawing this angle though is that I really wish I got to draw more of Springtrap's body because I really love drawing like tears and wears on clothing and suits like this. But unfortunately, due to the jump scare angle, I couldn't really do that, unfortunately. But I tried my best with little details on his body and his corpse. And finally, the coloring process. The coloring process is actually not only incredibly easy, but also incredibly fun, as I found like a stubble brush that could give his suit like little fuzzy effects. But anyway, the portrait is now complete. Yup, I decided to make a portrait for one of Springtrap's legendary skins, the Yellow Rabbit. I know I'm not supposed to show bias towards any of the killers in this series, but as soon as I heard that Matthew Lillard from the FNAF movie would be a legendary skin for Springtrap, I knew I had to get him right away. In fact, he's the only skin I've ever bought for a killer and will probably be the only skin I ever buy for a killer, to be honest. This man is a national treasure, and I just really wanted to honor him by giving him his own portrait. Also, if you remember what I said earlier, I did say I was going to use Springtrap's door ability later in the video, and so I decided to use the door ability as the main focus for this portrait. Okay, before I start talking about the portrait, I just want to say that I really don't like drawing real-life people. I'm probably the only artist that will ever say this, but I don't know, I always found it really weird to just draw like real-life people, you know? Which is why most of my art mostly consists of like fictional and like cartoon or animated characters, you know? But since this is Matthew Lillard, you know, aka William Afton, aka Shaggy, aka Ghostface, I just had to do him. He's a really sweet dude. Anyway, getting into the actual portrait now, I actually had so much fun making the line art. I of course based this pose off of the animation whenever you get grabbed when you're traveling through a door as a survivor. I was also glad I was able to draw a lot more of his body here than I could have for Springtrap, although I wish I could have included the bite from the cupcake. I was also so incredibly satisfied by the line art that I decided to color him in early, which also helped me create the background later on. And just like Springtrap, I was also very happy to draw all the wears and tears on his Yellow Rabbit suit here. And just like the Springtrap portrait, I used the stubble brush to give his yellow suit some fuzziness. Alright, after getting Matthew Lillard done, I of course started working on the background, which was going to be the office that you travel to when you're using the doors. And of course, to keep the background from looking really stale and boring, I actually, added a little bit of things that were, in the office whenever you do travel to it. Such as the really random lockers that just, are just in there, I guess, for the security guard. I added the little clock up there, and of course, the main subject matter of the background here, the door. Fun fact, I actually gave the clock a little Easter egg. I don't know if you guys can see it because it's really tiny, but if you look at the clock hands, you can see that it's almost at 6 a.m., which means in this portrait, Matthew Lillard got you at 5:59 a.m. Anyway, the portrait is now complete. Alright, next up we got Vecna. Oh, sorry, wrong Vecna. This Vecna, the original from D&D. I have never played D&D, and originally I didn't really care or like that Vecna was coming to the game, mostly because I was a little salty about that year's anniversary not being FNAF. But after a while, I actually did buy him, and he's actually incredibly fun to play. I find it so cool that you can just deny a survivor a pallet, or if they drop it on you, you can just simply lift it up. I also like that you can just fly across the map using his flight ability, or how you can use a big funny purple ball to search for survivors in the nearby areas, or how you can send dead people to hit alive people. Yeah, he's got a pretty stacked list of abilities, which I thought was going to be hard at first, and I even considered giving him 4 separate portraits just for his abilities alone. But I think I found a comfortable way to make 3 of his abilities work on 1 portrait. Yeah, I said 3 abilities since I couldn't find a way to incorporate his flight ability in here. But Mage Hand, Flight of the Damned, and Dispelling Spear I did manage to find a way. Also, before we get to the portrait, I just want to say that I actually haven't encountered a Vecna in-game since his release, until I started recording this video and I finally found one. I even got his tooltip that you get whenever you encounter a new killer for the first time. Anyway, back to the portrait. So, unlike my other portraits, I actually almost completely drew Vecna in my sketchbook, and I'm actually incredibly proud of the sketch. I'll put it up here on screen because I feel like I really outdid myself with it, you know? Anyways, getting into the actual details of the portrait now, I actually started off Vecna on a completely separate canvas because for anyone who doesn't know, the portraits are actually kind of small, at least digital-wise. So to truly get all the insane details on Vecna, since he's a fantasy-type character, he gets like a bunch of like different little details to his design. I had to do him on a completely separate canvas to truly get his design right. Coloring him was also extremely fun. I even included the little book. I don't know what it's called. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons fan. I'm sorry, but he has like this weird little book of like, I think his spells in his chest, and you know, I just had to include that because I think on his map there's also an Easter egg where if he is the killer on his map, the book won't spawn in the basement of the dungeon, I think. I don't know about that, but I thought it was a cool detail to add. Okay, now getting into the actual canvas that the portrait is on, I actually started out by drawing a palette, which was going to be like right in the center of the portrait to represent the Mage Hand later on. And as you can see, the palette here is a little different compared to the other ones I've drawn, and that's because for some reason the palettes on Vecna's and the Knight's map are like different for some reason. I don't know why, but I just decided to include that little detail because why not? Alright, after getting that done, I had to, you know, of course, draw the skeletons, or the Flight of the Damned, and of course the Mage Hand, which I actually had so much fun making, since I got to use a different color other than black for the line art. And to color them in, I actually found this really cool nebula brush, I think it was called, to give them like this weird, a weird magical look to them. And as for the Dispelling Sphere, instead of like actually showing it here, I decided to use the Dispelling Sphere as like the portrait border here. And just like Singularity, there will be a version of this portrait without the Dispelling Sphere. Anyway, the portrait is now complete. Knight and his lads. An aesthetically awesome killer, but a controversial one. Look, I don't think I need to say how infuriating it can be to face this guy at times, but at the very least he makes really cool sounds as he chases you. The heavy metal footsteps he makes as he strides along with his really cool chase music make him a memorable killer for sure. His lore is also pretty interesting. The knight, or his real name Tarhos, survived the destruction of his village as a child. He even had an encounter with the entity, an encounter he would never forget. He was then captured, enslaved, and taken to Italy. He then grew into a powerful warrior within the mercenary group Guardia Campania. Over time, his strength and fearlessness earned him knighthood and 3 loyal followers. But he was still haunted by the mysterious feeling from his childhood. Tarhos then joined a noble scholar, Victorio, who sought a magical stone set to open to a perfect world. But when Victorio refused to use violence to claim it, Tarhos killed for it, and then turned on Victorio to uncover its secrets through torture and war. He was consumed by ambition and rage. Tarhos waged a battle against all who opposed him, with his 3 loyal friends fighting alongside him. But as armies closed in, a thick fog swallowed the battlefield, leading to Tarhos and his boys ending up in the entity's realm. His backstory was actually really cool to read. It also makes his power pretty cool as well. Oh yeah, the power, I forgot about that. The knight's power is called Guardia Campania, and basically you get to use your lads to help you throughout the trial. You got Carnifex for breaking pallets and generators, you got the assassin used for quick hits, and lastly the jailer to pressure survivors with longer chase times. Basically, his power is what Legion should have been like. So of course his lads were going to be the main focus of this portrait. But before I get into this portrait, I just wanted to say that every one of these portraits up until now was actually all done on my phone, believe it or not. But halfway into making this portrait, I actually got myself an upgrade and bought a tablet. So this portrait was half made on my phone and half made on my tablet. I'll have these icons to show you when the change happened. Okay, one more thing. The other 2 portraits done in this video after this one were actually done on my tablet, so these icons here, I won't show them for the other 2. Alright, now getting into the actual portrait, the knight here was actually done on a completely separate portrait, just like I did for Vecna. Because just like Vecna, he has a bunch of like little details to his armor, his clothing, and weapon and all that. And of course, just like Vecna, drawing the knight here was incredibly tricky and also incredibly time consuming. But I did have a lot of fun drawing all like the different armor parts and all that. He is incredibly fun to draw. Oh, and also just a neat little thing, I based his pose here off of the little starting animation of his Mori. Maybe I'll pull it up here on screen, hopefully I will. Please do that post editing, Adrian. But yeah. Also, a little thing I noticed when looking up pictures of the knight, he has a lot less like armor on his torso here, or maybe that's just like the leather covering it. I don't really know, but it did kind of bother me because I really wanted to add a lot more armor, you know? And of course, as you can see already, I've already begun coloring him. And you know, just like most of my other portraits, coloring him was indeed really fun. Alright, once I finished up the knight, I actually, you know, transported him into the other canvas where I would put the lads in. And of course, I started off with Carnifex because he's the biggest of the lads. And I'm not gonna lie, drawing and coloring him was kind of difficult, mostly because he isn't very easy to draw, but not entirely difficult either. And of course, after finishing Carnifex, I got set to work completely on the jailer? Yeah, the jailer. And at this point with the jailer was about my first attempt at using my new tablet, which probably explains why he isn't as good as Carnifex and also the assassin. That's probably why they aren't so like good, or like at least as good as Carnifex, but I still thought it was very neat. But you know, I got the lads done, and you know, hopefully they are good. Anyway, the portrait is now complete. the Executioner, better known as Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is a strange killer, especially within the entity's realm. For anyone who hasn't played Silent Hill 2, spoilers of course, skip to this timestamp if you wish to be spoiler free. But anyway, Pyramid Head should only really exist for James Sunderland. You see, after killing his terminally ill wife, James was overwhelmed by extreme guilt and denial, but somehow then received a strange letter from his deceased wife asking him to come to Silent Hill. Once in Silent Hill, the strange properties of the town manifested James's guilt into the iconic Pyramid Head, with its knife being big and heavy, symbolizing just how much the weight of regret and guilt James carries. Silent Hill actually looks completely different to all who enter it, so the other characters, such as Angela, Eddie, and Laura, all have a different view of what Silent Hill is like. For James, it looks like a foggy and abandoned town, but for Angela, it looks like everything is on fire. I say all this because Pyramid Head only exists for James, with none of the other characters actually being able to see him or even aware of his presence. So it's kind of weird seeing Pyramid Head in DBD since he only really exists for James. But it seems like in his DBD lore, the entity makes a deal with him? Yeah, I don't really know, but that doesn't matter since I'm really just here to make silly drawings of these killers and their abilities. Speaking of which, let's get right into that. Pyramid Head can use his knife to dig into the ground, leaving behind a torment trail. If any survivor walks on the torment trail, they'll be tormented, and when downed, you'll be able to send them to a cage of atonement. But this also has a secondary ability to it, as if you use the attack button while you're digging your knife into the ground, you'll shoot out a temporary trail in the straight line, which can injure and down survivors. For this portrait, I wanted to use him just digging into the ground, with being tormented also being another aspect of this portrait. Okay, so to start off the portrait, I actually had a difficult time starting it because I had two separate ideas. I wanted to do the torment trails, you know, him digging into the ground and all that. But then I also had the other idea of him, like, shooting out the rites of judgment from the ground. And ultimately, I decided to go with the idea of him digging into the ground, mostly because, the shot of him trying to shoot out the rites of judgment, I would either have to make him incredibly small to, like, really capture it, or it would just look really wonky. So yeah, I decided to go with the him digging into the ground for this one. I also just really wanted to show off the torment trails because I honestly think they're like the most like visually unique of his power here. His pose was also a bit tricky to get right here, but eventually I did get it, and I also had to shrink him a bit just to really fit him into the portrait. Then, you know, after I got his pose right, I immediately started working on the little like rebar frames. I don't know what they're called, like the pillars I guess you could say, from the rites of judgment, or the torment trails I mean, plus the rebar. And while it was a bit time consuming, I actually had a lot of fun drawing it, and I actually had a lot of fun coloring not only the torment trail but also Pyramid Head. I don't know what it is about Rust, but Rust is like extremely satisfying to color in, and I feel like it really nailed his knife here. Alright, so after I colored in the Torment Trail and Pyramid Head, I actually got set to work on the background here. And originally I was going to make the background like a plain, like grass background, kind of like what I did for the Trapper and Dredge's portraits. But then I decided to go the extra mile and actually put in the middle of Midwich for the background here. Sorry, it's been like a while since I've played Silent Hill 1, so I really don't know what this is called anymore, but like I just thought it'd be like really cool to like put it into the portrait here. But either way, it was also really fun to draw. Now earlier I said I was gonna do the effect whenever you're tormented as a survivor. So on a separate canvas, I exactly did that just to show that the survivor in the portrait has been tormented. Anyways, the portrait is now complete. And for the final killer of today's video, I decided to do the Krasue, because I thought she was a really cool killer during her PTB, and she's probably my second favorite killer they've brought to the fog, design-wise. She's just right behind the unknown for me. But the community hasn't been all too happy with her. And for good reason, mind you. She was incredibly strong on her release, and even now with some nerfs, she's still the third best killer in the game. And the community isn't very fond of her. Which makes this portrait kind of awkward now, since I made this back during the PTB and I really thought people would be excited for it, but I don't really know anymore. But you know what? I'm just here to make silly little drawings of the Dead by Daylight killers. Plus, with the nature of this killer being, gruesome to say the least, it is a perfect candidate to be my final killer for my totally planned Halloween video. Her backstory is also pretty gnarly. The Krasue was once an average opera singer in Thailand, but wanted more recognition. This is when she was offered a potion by a fellow singer. She drank it and soon her talent blossomed. But every night she would wake up covered in blood. Horrified, she turned to her friend for help, who offered to let her stay at her place, but unfortunately woke up to find her friend had been eaten by her own hands. Disgusted, she confronted the singer who gave her the potion. She then finds out that this was planned to pass on the curse that the singer had. Enraged, her head tore from her body, and she ate the singer until there was nothing left. After that, she would sing by day, and by night she would feast, until a great power promised her a world of meat hung on hooks, and thus she was thrown into the entity's realm. Yeah, pretty brutal. Anyway, let's get to her powers, shall we? The Krasue has two unique aspects to her power. When she is in her normal human form, she can regurgitate a leech to attach to survivors. At first, this leech doesn't do much, but this leads into the second aspect of her power, where she can detach her head from her body, and if a survivor has a leech on them, they can be injured by her head form. And this head form is gnarly, so of course this form was going to be the main aspect of the portrait. Okay, so to start off the portrait, I just wanted to say that I'm actually incredibly proud of the Krasue sketch I did, just like I did for Vecna. And I'll put it up here on screen to show you guys. Again, I'm just proud of it, and I just really want to show it. Although I won't lie, when I was making this sketch, I did have to look up a couple organs, so I might have been put on a watch list. I'm hoping not, but if my FBI agent is watching, hello. I was just drawing a stupid character, okay? I'm not looking to do anything malicious, alright? Alright, so after I got the Krasue's head down, I decided to draw her main body, which is in the background, as you can see. And I didn't give her main body a lot of detail because I didn't know whether or not I was gonna blur it further on in the portrait, and spoiler alert, I did end up blurring it, so I'm glad I didn't go with, a lot of little details for it. But a little detail that I did want to add to the main body was, of course, the mushrooms that spawn whenever you transform as the Krasue. Alright, now into the coloring process. Again, like most of these portraits, I had so much fun making, coloring in the Krasue here. Although, unfortunately, with the Krasue being, one of the most, bloodiest killers in the game, I don't know if I'll be able to show the color here, so, if you see it in black and white, I had to censor it. If not, then, enjoy the coloring and the blood. And again, for, the main body here in a bit, I didn't, color it too accurately because, again, I was gonna blur it by this point. But don't worry, I included the blood. Did I mention this portrait has a lot of blood? I don't know, I'm just gonna mention it again, but this portrait has a lot of blood. And for the background here, since the Krasue didn't come with a map, I did, the typical backgrounds I always do for the killers that I don't really need the background for. So you have your trees, your grass, and all that. But also because the background here wasn't the main focus, it was of course the Krasue. But I did add some things like the regurgitation on the tree back there, and I even gave the portrait some leeches on the foreground here. But anyway, with that, the portrait is now complete. Before I end off this video, I just want to give some massive shoutouts to my friends for helping me get this video done. They all have their own dedicated channels on both YouTube and Twitch, and I would greatly appreciate it if you went to go check them out, because without them, this video wouldn't have been possible at all. The link to their channels is in the description. I'm even co-starring in one of my friends' videos, so again, just please check them out. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. This video was a big one to say the least, so the next video in this series will be a shorter one, since next time I'll only be doing 3 portraits instead of the usual 4. So please, if you have a killer that you really want me to do and I haven't done them yet, please let me know down in the comment section. And if you want to see more things for me, I also have a Blue Sky and Instagram, and I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret here, but you get to see these portraits a little earlier if you follow those accounts. Anyway, with that, I'll see you next time.